So thanks again for coming to our practicum information session tonight. My name's Alyssa. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the experiential learning coordinator supporting students in health studies and kinesiology. I'd like to begin today with a land acknowledgement. I'm zooming in from London, Ontario, so my feet are planted on the traditional lands of the Anishinaabeg, Haudenosaunee, Lenapehoik, and Chinookan nations, on lands connected with the London Township and Sombre Treaties of 1796 and the Dish with One Spoon Covenant Wampum. Next week is National Truth and Reconciliation Week, with the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation coming up on Saturday, September the 30th. On this day, we honor the survivors of residential schools and the children that never return home. I encourage you to go to the QR code that you can see on the screen in orange and find an event that you can go to in London or on campus at Western next week to learn more about Indigenous peoples in Canada and engaging in reconciliation. Friday, September the 29th is the day that we observe National Day for Truth and Reconciliation on our campus. So there's going to be several different events happening on that day, and I hope that you'll join me. All right, so let's jump into the presentation. So here's an overview of what I'm going to go through today. We're going to talk about the benefits of engaging in practicums and experiential learning. We'll go through the courses that are available for this winter term. We'll talk about the application and its different sections, the mandatory resume interview workshops, go through what is matching and how that process works, take you through a few example opportunities and hear that video from a couple students. And then lastly, we'll wrap up with ideas for next steps. So let's jump right into the benefits of engaging in a practicum or experiential learning. It's a great chance to do some hands-on learning and take what you've been learning in the classroom for the last few years and apply it to a real-world setting. It's a great chance to network with your supervisors or preceptors, and those are professionals that are working in the fields of interest that you're currently studying in, which is awesome. This could be a chance to build a relationship with someone who could later be a reference or maybe write a reference letter for you if you're applying to a graduate program or professional program, perhaps. You'll get to build skills. Some of those skills will be specific to your field of study, but many of them will also be soft skills. Soft skills like communication, teamwork, critical thinking, problem solving. And regardless of what you do next after you graduate, these soft skills are often even more important than some of the specific knowledge you have in your field for many, many employers, the majority of employers here in Canada. And it's also an amazing chance to learn what you like and what you don't like, so you can make more informed choices and better choices for yourself as you pursue next steps after you graduate. So with that, I'll give you a quick rundown of the winter term courses. So we offer both practicum and experiential learning courses. So for example, for health studies, we used to call this a practicum, and now we call it experiential learning. This is just because the term practicum really sounds like you'll be in more of a clinical setting. That's what it means. And in health studies, given the breadth of the program, we also see a wide breadth of opportunities. Now, for that, we also have the practicum available in kinesiology as well as in sports management. Sports management kind of falls into the same course as kinesiology, but the type of placement will vary a little bit. So these are the different opportunities that are available for winter 2024. And the applications and surveys have recently opened up for all of these opportunities. In this session, as I've said before, I won't be going over full year placements like rehabilitation sciences or clinical kinesiology. These will be covered in more depth in the information session that will happen in kind of around February or March in 2024, which is around the time where the applications will open for those opportunities. But just keep in mind that much of the application process is the same. So if you're interested interested in learning more, much of what you hear tonight will still be applicable to you. Just the dates will vary a little bit, as well as some of the specifics. But with that, let's get into the specifics for what's offered for winter. So for health studies, the course is Health Studies 4996B. Again, this year called Experiential Learning. Same kind of thing as a practicum, just going by a different name. It's a half credit opportunity. And for those of you that have maybe attended an information session before, what you'll realize is that it has a B at the end, so it's no longer an essay course. So who can apply for these opportunities are honors specialization and honors double major students in the School of Health Studies. And we're looking for a cumulative average of 75% or higher. So when it comes to the placement hours, students will do 6 to 8 hours per week. That's a minimum of 75 hours per term. It's a credit course. It's a graded course. You're going to have different assignments. For example, right now, students are working on a learning contract as a graded assignment. And there is an in-class component to this course. It's about an hour of lecture on most weeks. Now, the kinesiology course is quite similar, the same code, so KIN 4996B. Again, this is not an essay course. Again, we call this one the practicum. It's a half credit, and it's open to honor specialization students in the School of Kinesiology, those with a modular average of 70% or higher. If you're an honors double major student in the School of Kinesiology, please know that conversations are currently happening regarding you taking 4,000 level courses, and that would include things like the practicum. If you're really interested in a practicum, what I recommend is moving forward with the application process. So in the event that you're eligible, we'll have all the information ready to go right away. Now, very similar to the health studies course, it's 6 to 8 hours of placement a week, and that's a minimum of 75 hours per term. It's a credit course, it's graded. Again, kinesiology students also are working on a learning contract right now as an assignment. And it's 1 hour of in-person lecture for most weeks. Now, with that, something important to note is for both schools, for health studies and kinesiology, there's a max of 1.0 credits that you can use between practicum and internship, like the long-term internship in particular. So long-term internship, for example, is 1 full credit. So you wouldn't be able to do that at this time with a practicum. For students in health studies that are maybe doing some of those summer internships internationally, that's a half credit, and you can maybe partner that with another half credit of a practicum. For health studies students, it's also important to keep in mind for you that 1.0 is for internship, practicum, and independent study. Now, in case there are any international or special students on the call, please note that the placements in health studies and kinesiology and the courses associated with them are unfortunately not available to international students. This is because they're not mandatory for the program, which is what's needed based on the regulations for international students to participate with like visas and things like that. They're also not available to special students. However, if you are a special student and you are doing a full second degree, either in health studies or kinesiology, please reach out to me. But if you're just taking a couple courses here and there, this course, the courses I've talked about would not be available to you. Now, one thing I'll say, just to pause here for a quick moment, is that I can see a question is already in the Q&A box. Feel free to put those in throughout the presentation. However, I will be holding them until the end and answering all the questions at that point. But you can put them in as they come to mind. Now, with that, for sports management, this is part of Kinesiology 4996B, that half credit practicum course in the winter term, no longer an essay credit. Now, unlike the courses I just talked about, this is mandatory for fourth-year students in sports management. You need this to be able to graduate. It's still 6 to 8 hours of practical experience at your placement a week. That's a minimum of 75 hours per term. It's a credit course, it's graded, and again, 1 hour of lecture a week on most weeks. So with that, regardless of which of those three programs you may be interested in, and if you're in fourth year applying for this winter term, the deadline is going to be Monday, October the 9th at 11:59 p.m. So that gives you the long weekend to work on this if you need to. But we'll get into the specifics of what's involved in this application and survey. So it's divided into a few different sections, and you'll just see one section at a time. So it starts off with your contact information, then some academic information. Then you'll answer some questions about your interests, career goals, and experience. You'll have an opportunity to upload your resume and tell us which resume interview session that's mandatory that you attended. You'll answer about if you're interested in remote opportunities and your transportation availability, like if you have access to a car and a valid driver's license. And then there's some terms and conditions, pretty much just understanding that all the information that you've said is true, that these are unpaid opportunities. And we'll talk a little bit later that some costs that may be there for you, but this is dependent on your placement. So when you access the application or survey, please know that you're going to need to be signed into your Western account to be able to access this Microsoft form. Now, for those of you on the call that are at the Ivy Business School, some students have had trouble accessing it when they're logged into their Ivy account. So just make sure you're using your Western one. This is kind of what it's going to look like, at least at the very beginning, once you scroll past some of the information. And at the end of the application, you're going to have an option to have your answers emailed to you. You can check if you're interested in that or not. Once you get to the end of the application, you know that you successfully submitted your application or survey if this message pops up on your screen. Please note that unless you click that box saying you want your answer sent to you, you are not going to receive another email letting you know that your application was submitted. So you're going to see this screen. If you ask for your answers to be emailed, they will be emailed to you. Otherwise, if you see this, your application has been submitted. If you have any concerns, you can just send us an email at experiencefhs@uwo.ca, and I'd be happy to double check for you. Now, part of this process, as I mentioned before, is the resume interview workshop, and this is mandatory. Now, there are other like resume and interview workshops happening on campus, but it's important that you attend the one specific for the practicum run by me next week, and I'll provide those times on the next slide. It's also really important to participate in this session, one, because it's mandatory, but we make it mandatory because your resume is really important. And it's important for a number of reasons. It's important for me and my colleague, Allison, who's the other experiential learning coordinator. So we understand who you are, what things you're interested in, so we can try our best to match you to an opportunity. But your resume will also be the first document that is sent to any potential organizations that you may do a placement with. This is your first impression. I come from a career coaching background, so I have seen a lot of resumes. I also read over 200 resumes for the students that applied for first term and full year opportunities. I read all of them once, and many students were either required to resubmit or decided that they would take me up on the option to resubmit, and I read those as well. What I can tell you based on all of that experience and reviewing hundreds of documents is that there are some simple steps that you can take to create an even more powerful resume. This is going to help you have a better chance of securing the placement that you're interested in. And also, resume skills are fundamental for job seeking. And this is going to help you support your next steps after graduation, no matter what they are. Now, for the resume workshops, they are offered next Wednesday and Thursday at 5:30, between 5:30 and 6:30. They're virtual, they're on Zoom, just like these sessions. If you have a conflict with both of those, just know that we have something else that you could do. So please email experiencefhs@uwo.ca, but wherever possible, attending the workshop will be better just to get a little bit more information and have an opportunity to ask questions in the Q&A throughout the presentation. Now, you do not need to attend this workshop if you already completed it in March 2023. This may be for some people that were planning to apply or did apply for full year or first term opportunities. If you did it in March 2023, you don't need to do it again. However, I know I have a lot of third year students on this call. And if you are not applying for winter term because you're not in fourth year yet and you're going to be applying for opportunities for next school year, it's really important that you wait to attend this session in the winter, in February or March of 2024. The reason for this is after this session, I'm going to do an overhaul of the session, make sure I make some more updates, and maybe change the way the content is being presented. So it's good for 2023, but you'll need to do it in 2024 if you're going to be applying at that time for opportunities. Now, even though these sessions are coming up next week, if you wanted to start updating your resume now, you could do that, and you can get more resources at career.uwo.ca, and that's where this QR code will take you. Now, this is a really great website. It doesn't just have things for updating your resume and watching sessions. You can sign up for other workshops on a wide range of career topics. You can book appointments with a career coach, and they also offer drop-in services. The drop-in services with the coaches are Monday to Friday in the afternoons, and they're just in University Community Center, room 210. That's on the second floor, right above the Starbucks on the main floor. I used to work for this team. They're really wonderful, really, really helpful. And I highly encourage you connect with them either as part of this process or as, just part of your career development as you're deciding on next steps after graduation. Now, here are some of my tips for the application and survey process for the practicum and experiential learning courses. So first is to review the PDF questions. I call these the application guides, and you can find them on the website. For students that are in sports management, you were emailed the survey and the application guide today, so check your email for that. But the next part, after you take a look at the questions and what we're looking for in terms of information, it's important to reflect on who you are, your goals, your experiences, and your needs. This is the most important part of a job seeking process. And in many ways, your practicum is like a soft opening into job seeking. So understanding who you are and what you're looking for is really important. Now, as you go through the application, you want to be focused yet flexible. What this means is that you want to have some clarity on kind of like what your top priorities are. So you're able to tailor your resume and answer the questions the best you can for the opportunities that you're hoping to get matched with. This allows myself and my colleague Allison to understand you a bit better so we can try to match you with something really great and find a great match between what the employer and organization is looking for and also what you're looking for. However, it's important to be flexible as well. Sometimes I've heard students say any placement is fine. However, then we send them a proposal for a placement and it turns out it's not actually fine with them. However, if you get too specific and you only are interested in working in a specific organization or a specific kind of opportunity, if you narrow your search too much, you might miss out on some really opportunities, and there might not be matches if those organizations aren't partners with us this year. Things are always changing based on, the organization's capacity to host students, where they're at with their staffing, their hiring, and any changes that happen in their organization. So you want to have focus, but still be a bit flexible because there's lots of different things that could help set you up for success in your future. Now, you want your answers to be complete, but also succinct. So there's a lot of you and only two of us, myself and Allison. So with that, it's important that you give us a complete answer, but You don't need to write a novel or a lengthy essay or anything like that. So complete but succinct would be best. It's also important that you answer the questions at hand and don't just say, see resume. There's, again, a lot of students and only a couple of us, and we use some different Excel sheets and databases to help with our matching. Now, I do read all of your resumes and make notes on them. However, we're not constantly going back and looking at them. So it's important that you answer the questions. We do look at your resume. We do take that information into consideration. We just don't have it open at all times. So it's important that you answer the question at hand. Now, with that, I also recommend that you attend the resume workshop first. This is just so you can present the strongest resume possible, because you may be required to resubmit your resume if I see a section is missing, if I see spelling mistakes, or sometimes formatting can get really distracting and it's just not presenting the best first impression. So please attend the workshop first so you can get your questions answered, learn some new tips. So that will kind of reduce the probability of you needing to resubmit. Now, part of the application is also going to be to list 3 organizations that you're interested in. For everyone on the call that's interested in health studies or kinesiology, not sports management, because yours is a bit different, just know that when we're asking you to list these, please exclude local hospitals like St. Joe's, Victoria Hospital, LHSC here in London and on campus. And it will say this very explicitly in the question. The reason for this is when we were doing applications for first term and full year opportunities, we had almost 200 applications. I will say the majority of students, when asked to list organizations that they are interested in, they listed the 3 local hospitals that we have here. So the thing about that is that the opportunities at the hospitals are very limited and very competitive. There's also sometimes a preference for full year opportunities. So we're not even sure how many that we'll have available for the winter term. So with that, I encourage you to do some research and cast a bit of a wider net about organizations you could be interested in outside of a hospital. That could be a clinic, it could be a nonprofit, it could be a company, it could be so many different things. So do a little bit of research into that. And also you'll have some specific places where you can indicate yes or no if you're interested in a hospital placement and why you're interested in a hospital placement. Now, with this, I want to remind everyone that this is a competitive process and not all who apply are guaranteed a placement. Now, for students in sport management, your placement is mandatory. However, please keep in mind that the process is still competitive and you need to engage in the process to secure an opportunity. Kind of, you know, that saying, you get out of it what you put into it, that very much applies to the practicum, the applications, and the surveys. And regardless of if it is an application or a survey, it's still important to take it seriously, answer those questions, think about your answers, do some preparation, and, you know, spend some time updating your resume after the sessions, because this ultimately helps myself and Allison match you with a great opportunity that aligns both for you, what you'd like to do, building skills, and the needs of different organizations. Your applications and surveys matter, and your resumes matter. So I really encourage you to use your resources. Again, this QR code is going to take you to career.uwo.ca for your resume and interview resources, and also things that you can use outside of this process too. Now to talk more about matching. So it starts off with what I like to call the pre-matching process. And just know that pre-matching, matching, all of it is done through your @UWO email account. So in mid-October is after you've submitted your applications by, again, Monday, October the 9th. I'm going to spend some time reviewing your resumes and also if you are academically eligible for the opportunity. Just know as I go through this resume review, you may be required to resubmit your resume. You also will have the opportunity to update it after getting a little feedback if you'd like to. It's important that you keep your eye on your email because there are timelines that you need to fulfill to move forward to the matching process, like resubmitting your resume on time. And I'll also send an email to confirm if you are academically eligible or not to move forward with the process. And from there is when matching begins. So matching is going to happen throughout October to December, and we're going to do our best to wrap up as much as possible before the exam period starts. What happens is myself and Allison review your applications, your resumes, and also the proposals that organizations submit. We spend some time looking at that and determining the best fit between the proposals and the students who have applied. And then we will email you the proposal that we think is the best fit for you to confirm your interest. We will then, if you say yes, send your resume to that organization. And from there, organizations will connect with students. So again, the organizations are going to connect with students. This will also often be through a call, maybe an in-person or a Zoom interview. And with that, it's ultimately up to the organization to select the students that they would like to host for the placement. If you're not selected, I encourage you not to get discouraged. We will do our best to match you to another opportunity. And just as a reminder, your organization is going to be sent to one organization at a time. As you're going through this process, we do have some expectations of you. So with that, we ask that you respond to emails from us within 48 hours. The sooner is the better. And we also ask that you follow up promptly with organizations, which means that you should also be checking your junk, your spam, and your promotions folders regularly in case their emails get sent there. Also check your voicemail regularly in case they leave a message that way. Again, all of this is creating your first impression. So if you take a really long time to get back to us or get back to the organization, they're not going to think you're very interested in the opportunity and they may move forward with another candidate. Now, it's important that you be open, flexible, and patient. Sometimes it will take your resume going to a few organizations before ultimately a match is found. And we also ask that you trust your coordinators. That's myself and Allison. You might have a really specific idea of what you want to do for your placement, but there are so many different skills and experiences that you can have that can help you work towards your goals. In my experience as both an experiential learning coordinator and a career coach, I've seen students get hyper focused on one kind of idea or job, and that can often mean that they miss out on other opportunities that could be useful, like building new skills, working with new populations, or understanding a different area of the industry or field. And these things can be important when you're applying to different things, if it's a job, or also if it's something like a professional school or graduate school. So just know that throughout the application, we ask questions about your interests, your experience, your career goals, the skills you want to build. And we take all this information into consideration and we do our best to match you to an opportunity that we have. However, just understand that sometimes it might look a little different than you expected. However, you never know, you might find something that you never considered, and it might change your trajectory for the better. Now, with that, you are able to connect with organizations. Maybe there's somewhere you've worked before, volunteered before, or you've already been doing some networking. All we ask is that before you reach out to an organization to ask if they would host you for a practicum, just email us at ExperienceFHS. The reason is Allison might already have something going. We want to try to not bombard the organizations that we partner with. And Allison is also really great at facilitating connection. So just send us an email and Allison will let you know on how to best proceed, depending on the organization and the contact that you have. Now, a few more important notes. So there could be other requirements for your placement, and just knowing that these requirements will be at your cost and additional costs sometimes to students. This could be vaccinations, TB testing, mask fitting, police checks or vulnerable sector checks, first aid or other trainings, that kind of thing. So just know, again, that these will be your responsibility and at your cost. Now, with that, let's talk about course enrollment. For students in sports management, since your practicum is mandatory, you've already been given the permissions to be able to add KIN 4996B, the practicum course, to your timetable. So there's no need to wait. Now, regardless of if you're in sports management or not, if you look up any of our practicum courses, it's going to say that they're closed or that they're full. And this is just because you need to have a permission added to your account to be able to access them. So even if it says closed, you can still add it once you have that permission. Sports management students, you're already good to go. For students in health studies and kinesiology, since your placements are not guaranteed, that means that you don't automatically have these permissions. And you need to pick another course and have a selection that you could alter in the event that you secure a placement. Once your placement is 100% secured, that's when I will request the permissions for you to be able to add these courses and let you know when they've been added and you can make the swaps to your schedule. But now is the part that probably many of you have been waiting for, and it's to hear about a few example opportunities. I'm going to go through one example for each of the different programs, and then you're going to hear a video from some of our students that have participated in placements. So let's start off with health studies, and one of our partner organizations is Growing Chefs Ontario. We have a couple students that are there this term. So with that, what these students are doing is that they are delivering food-themed hands-on lessons to children and youth. They're helping implement new food-based curriculum-linked programs, like for drop-in classes or field trips. And they also work with chefs to help lead interactive cooking activities. Now, with this, for students in health studies, again, it's quite a broad field. So for some people who could be interested in this are people who are interested in careers that work with children, that work with youth, that are interested in things revolving around education and teaching. And also if you're interested in things that relate to nutrition or just have like a personal interest in food. For kinesiology, an example we have here is the Horton Street Senior Center. We have a couple students that are there this term, and they are supervising the fitness and weight room for the clients there. And those clients are ages 55 and older. They help facilitate small group classes, and they're also developing content for social media as it relates to exercise, nutrition, and aging. And Horton Street is also excited to have our students brainstorm new recreational experiences for the members of their center. Now, last but not least, for sport management, one organization that we've been a partner with is Fire Rock. They don't just take sports management students, but also students in health studies and even kinesiology. So what some of our sport management students there last year did was a lot relating to sponsorship. So anything between researching potential sponsors for their different golf leagues and tournaments, also reaching out to the sponsors, creating sponsorship packages, as well as doing other things like creating content and updating content on their websites. So now the next part I'm going to do is I'm going to play a video from our information session that was done in March. The reason for this is that our students that are doing placements right now have just started. They've maybe only done one, possibly two shifts. So they're just, learning the ropes and getting oriented to their positions. However, these students on this recording had been at their placements for quite a bit of time at the time of this session. Now, what I'd like you to know is that as they're speaking, you're going to hear them make some references to applying in the summer and also a bit of a different timeline. This is because they were applying for first term or full year opportunities. So just know when they're making references to summer, for those who are applying this year, it would be starting, again, application is due October 9th in the next couple of weeks. And then the matching process would be between September to December. So I hope you enjoy hearing from them, and then we'll just have a few more things to wrap up.
Hi, my name is Gabby. I'm a fourth year honors specialization student, and I am currently conducting a the practicum at the City of Kawartha Lakes Family Health Team. And it is, currently remote. So I do everything online and with mostly with Zoom and email. So just like my little day to day, wake up, log on to my email, see what I have to do for the day. It's usually an assignment over a couple of weeks. So right now I'm working with the strategic planning team. So I'm setting the mission, vision, and values for the family health team, as well as creating a lot of infographics. I'm also working on some health promotion material as well. So very wide range of things I could be doing, but one thing that's consistent is I have weekly check-ins with my supervisor who just makes sure everything's going well and then figure out where we want to go from there. Some of the things that Alyssa were saying is keep an open mind, and I cannot emphasize that more. I did no idea what a family health team really did before I joined my practicum, and I wasn't entirely sure I wanted to accept it when I was interviewing for it. But now that I've done it, it's one of the best experiences I've ever had in my undergrad. It's really opened the doors to a whole other field in healthcare, and I've even gotten a position this summer. So it's great to network as well and build off of undergrad. So that's great. Some tips. I would definitely do your research and make sure your CV is ready to go, or CV or resume. I had a few options before, and I was looking at some different organizations, but I really resonated with the family health team when I interviewed with them. So just keep an open mind. It's a little bit of a competitive process, so don't get too discouraged. A couple of mine were rejected, and I eventually got in with the family health team. So, yeah.
Hi, everybody. So I am in clinical kinesiology, and so it's CAN 4590. It is in person at a physiotherapy, but also interdisciplinary clinic. I focus on the physiotherapy. Day to day, I help with heat treatments and ultrasound and prescribing exercise to the patients. Most of the patients suffer from motor vehicle accident injuries, so my focus is definitely there. As part of the deliverable, which Alyssa explained, we have to do a project culminating the whole year. So I am creating an exercise program and tracking sheets for the patients so they can adhere to exercise. If you're in kinesiology, which you all are, I'm sure you know how important that is. And one of the most meaningful parts of my experience has really been getting to know the patients. So this entire year I've been going in on Tuesdays and on Thursdays, so I really get to see the patients progressing over time, which is really, really nice to see their improvements. And sometimes they even graduate from physiotherapy, which is always nice to see their success. Advice for you guys, one thing that Alyssa has mentioned, but just to reiterate, is definitely to be on your email during the summer. I know it can be really, really difficult, but even just downloading the Outlook app on your phone and adding in your school email, just because the things that you want may go quickly, just because there's so many people that the placement coordinators need to place. And the last thing I would recommend for clinical, but also for all students, is if possible, maybe to take a little bit of a lighter course load. If it's in health studies and you're only doing a semester, then focusing easier course load in that semester, just because the placements can be quite a few hours. So just keeping that in mind when you're making your schedule in the summer. And that is it.
All right, everyone. I hope you enjoyed hearing from some of our students. What I just like everyone to know is that the student who was talking last, even though they were in clinical kinesiology, the opportunity that they were talking about is available to both clinical kinesiology and also some kinesiology students, as well as some really grateful tips there. So for next steps, you could start reviewing the application questions with those application program guides, either available on our website or that has been emailed to you if you're in sports management. You can sign up for a mandatory resume interview workshop. Those links are on our website, and you'll also get a follow-up email tomorrow with them too. You could connect with a career coach from the career education team to, get some support. You could research organizations to cast that wider net than just the hospitals. And also, you could work towards your answers because your applications and surveys are due in about 2.5 weeks on October the 9th. Now, I'd like to thank everyone for joining me tonight. If you have any questions, you can email us at experiencefhs@uwo.ca.